Hello, welcome to Daniel's Inferno. My name is Daniel. Thank you for joining me today. If you have a moment, please like, subscribe, share, join the conversation below. I'd love to hear from you. So, today's video. New updates on what is going on in Iran, as well as Iran has brought bulldozers into the crash site of the plane. Scavengers are now picking what is left. Firstly, that's disgusting that there's scavengers going through these dead people's belongings and taking whatever they can. Beyond the pale. I don't know why these belongings weren't secured and sent back to the families. There's also, I found a video that a subscriber of mine shared. Thank you very much, by the way. And I will credit in my description the person who posted this video on YouTube. We're only going to watch about 15 to 20 seconds of the video. It shows you can see already on the screen here. You can see a little blip or a little dot, whatever, on the screen. This is what is believed to be the missile that hit the plane. So we are going to watch this video. This is, if anyone watches my videos with children because I tone my language, please, I'd rather, probably better they not see this. Boom. So it's very quick, as you can see. There. What is clearly an object that was hurled, launched, whatever, in the air and then explodes. That is the plane here. And I think this is fairly unimpeachable evidence. I mean, obviously, it's not 100% verifiable, the date that the video was taken, etc., etc. There are other factors. However, from what I can see, there are a few other videos floating around that mirror this one and are supposedly supposed to be the plane that was hit very recently. So all of the factors together, as well as the fact that they are holding the black box for themselves, they are bulldozing the site, they are allowing scavengers to go through it, the videos, the missile fragments that were found, the fact that these pilots had so much experience, the fact that the planes can fly with one engine. All of these factors combined, I think, point very clearly to Iran shooting down the civilian airliner. They made a mistake. They did not close their airspace, and now 176 people are the result of that mistake. And I've gotten into arguments with people, unfortunately, on Facebook and other social media platforms about the fact that Canada should attempt in some capacity to hold Iran responsible. This is not just an oopsie. This cannot just be something we glaze over and move on. That is, if we are so woke and committed to all of this insanity, on the left, that's all being pushed, then when real justice needs to be met, we need to meet the challenge. So I also have an article to show everybody here. I'd like to say quickly, I have another video that I will be doing almost immediately after this one, so there will not be a Twitter reaction in this video because the next video will heavily show Twitter. It does not have to do with this topic. As you can see from the Business Insider, it's a fairly credible source. Iran is using bulldozers at the Ukrainian plane crash site could make it impossible to prove what happened. Searching the scene where a Ukrainian plane crashed, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the name, southwest of the Iranian capital of Tehran. So U.S., British, and Canadian intelligence determined that the Ukrainian plane crashed in Iran Wednesday morning was shot down by a surface-to-air missile. Physical evidence of the crash site could prove what happened, but images from the scene show workers appearing to move chunks of debris with heavy machinery. This could make it next to impossible to properly investigate the crash, one expert said. Iran has also been reluctant to hand over flight recorders. Bulldozers to move around pieces of debris from a crashed Ukrainian passenger jet, possibly destroying evidence. Images and reports from the crash site outside the Iranian capital show at least one bulldozer working the debris. The crash site is at the center of a tense geopolitical struggle. Very clearly it is. This is all things that we've talked about before. Physical evidence from the crash site could prove more information. Very clearly it could. A researcher for the investigation website Bellingcat shared a thread of photos that he said showed heavy machinery at work. As you can see, so this individual is either on the scene or has sources down on the ground. I find these photos distressing because this could potentially be a scene of a crime. If this was a shot down event, you don't want to disturb the crash site before a thorough investigation can be conducted. So I'm going to stop quickly. I don't want to pretend like the West has not done things like this before and have escaped justice, because that was actually a poignant point that somebody made. You have to give it to them. The U.S., there have been instances where the U.S. or other Western countries have shot down civilian jets. I believe in 1988 was the example that I was reading about. And obviously there was no justice. And I don't think that's right. I think that we all follow the same rules, and that all these rules must apply to us equally, no matter who we are, where we're from, the color of our skin, the creed of our beliefs. None of that matters. Our actions matter. How our actions and the impacts that those actions had, that's what matters. Excuse me for a moment. Elliot Higgins, another Bellingcat investigator, tweeted that disturbing the wreckage would make it next to impossible to investigate the crash. Others, including U.S. Ambassador to Germany, effectively accused Iran of mounting a cover-up. No one knows how to clean up a site before the inspectors come better than the Iranians. Oh, geez. The presence of heavy machinery at the crash site is among numerous problems that could complicate the pursuit of truth behind the crash. It is not yet clear whether the U.S. will be allowed to access the crash site to conduct its own investigation, but CNN, citing the country's semi-official Fars news agency, reported that Iran invited the U.S. as the manufacturer of Boeing to be present. So that's a contradictory statement than what they have made before, seeing as immediately after the crash they said that the U.S. and Boeing would not be involved at all. So that I'm not sure which one is true. Oh, this individual. Yeah, Ali Abedzadeh, the head of Iran's civil aviation organization, telling Iran's Channel 2 News that the agency didn't plan on handing over flight recorder information to Boeing or the U.S. in its investigation. So that was something we already knew, which it kind of contradicts this report that Iran invited the U.S. to be present. The Iranian report also said that no radio message were received from the pilot regarding unusual situations, and that the eyewitnesses recalled seeing the plane engulfed in flames before the crash. The same individual from the Civil Aviation Authority denied any Iranian responsibility. The Wall Street Journal reported, citing Iran's Channel 2 News. He told the local news outlet it was not possible an Iranian missile had hit the jet. Of course, How would the anti-aircraft system shoot it? It wasn't a security area. It doesn't. That is one of the silliest excuses I've ever heard in my life. Just because it wasn't a security area doesn't mean that tensions were not high and that people's trigger fingers were itchy. They had just shot missiles at U.S. bases. I understand that the intention was probably not to kill anyone in those missile attacks, but it still could have been considered an act of war to attack those bases. And regardless of the casualties or not, this all started when militias that were backed by Iranian influences killed a U.S. civilian contractor in the region. That's what started this all off, and that's something we need to remember. And these civilians, the civilian passenger jet, was a casualty in this whole kerfuffle between the U.S. and Iran. And a lot of people are making the point that the U.S. doesn't have a hand in this situation, and technically, because they did not have any citizens on the plane, I suppose they don't have a hand. Boeing has a hand, the U.S. manufacturer of the plane, so there's a reason for them to be trying to figure it out, because more than anything, if it was a manufacturing issue, Boeing wouldn't want that to be the case. They would want the opposite. So they are going to want to do the most thorough investigation to protect their reputation. Iran, however, cares very little for their reputation. They only care for covering things up and for doing the wrong thing, at least in the West's opinion. When you're murdering homosexuals, when you're killing gays, you're throwing them off roofs, you're doing some of the most horrible things possible, oppressing your people because they don't agree with you. That's wrong. In the R2P, their responsibility to protect, which is a core democratic principle, is something we must remember. Now, that doesn't mean regime change wars, that doesn't mean endless wars, but it is something that must be kept in mind during the whole thought process of situations. And I think Iran must be held accountable. That is my opinion. I know a couple of people who watch my videos off Facebook don't agree with me, and that's absolutely fine. Thank you all for watching. I'm Daniel's Inferno.